The StrutFit Show, bringing retail into the future.
Hello and welcome to the StrutFit Show. I'm your host, Nayyar. I'm also the CEO of StrutFit, where our vision is the same as the vision for this show, to bring retail into the future. Every episode, I'll be joined by a guest who is leading or innovating in some part of the retail spectrum, from design to manufacturing to marketing and even to sales. We'll discuss trends, learnings, and ideas and really try to figure out what the top performers in your field are doing. Along the way, we'll discover some lessons you can apply to your own career and hopefully even have some fun. All right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the StrutFit Show. I'm joined here by Thibault, the co-founder and CPO of Vyking. Thibault, why don't I let you give us a little intro about yourself and what you get up to?
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm Thibault, as you said, co-founder and CPO at Vyking. Vyking is the leader in virtual try-on solutions for the fashion world. We started in footwear, and I think we're the most used solution today by footwear manufacturers. And now we're venturing out to other product categories such as watches, accessories, and apparel.
Awesome. I remember seeing you guys, I might have already told you this, a couple of years ago, because we looked at doing AR and we were like, damn, AR looks like really quite hard. Like this asset generation isn't easy. And what the other stuff we were seeing, people would like put an asset onto the shoe and it would really look really janky and you'd have to get like an app. I was like, no one's doing this through a web browser in a really compelling way. And then I saw your solution, and I'm like, "Damn, these guys are really cool." And then we connected a couple months later, so it was good timing.
Exactly.
How did you tell us your founding story? Like, how did you get started? I know we both started our companies a similar 7 years ago. What was that journey, and how did you end up deciding, okay, I want to solve AR sizing initially for footwear and now for watches?
Yeah, that's a funny one. So we started in face tracking originally because we were fascinated by what Snapchat and Facebook were doing with those face filters, but then we were too late to the game, and then we thought, okay, how about putting a shoe on a foot? Is that possible? It was not at the time. There was no videos online, so we thought, okay, maybe we're onto something. So we didn't have much money back then. So we created a fake concept video where we asked a random guy on the internet, here's a 3D model of a shoe. Here's a video of my foot inside my living room. Can you put it on that foot with CGI? And the guy said, yeah, sure. He sent us the video, and then we just posted it on Instagram. And we say, this is the future of sneaker shopping. And we tagged every brand that we wanted to work with, Nike, Adidas, Timberland, whatever, all the dream clients. And they all got in touch with us through Instagram.
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. And then 2 days later, we had a meeting with Nike, and they asked us, can we see it? Can we use it ourselves? And we were like, it only works in the office, the biggest startup lie.
Yeah.
And we never heard from them again. But all the people who got in touch with us were patient enough. They were really great to cooperate with, and especially Adidas Canada. It started and then it launched globally. So yeah, basically we bootstrapped with a fake concept video, which turned out to be okay.
That's brilliant. I might steal that marketing gimmick, if you will, because it seems to have worked. How many people use your solution now on a monthly basis, or or ever? Like how many people have used it? Maybe with Adidas and then just in general, because I feel like it's a massive number.
It's a huge number, thanks to Adidas and to some of our clients in China. I think approximately our virtual try-on for footwear is used 23 million times per year. So divided per 12 to get a number per month. I'm not good at mental math, but
That's a lot. It's like 2 million a month.
It's
That's crazy.
it's being used a lot by many people around the world. It's always crazy to think that an idea that you had, in a flat share in London is used by some, random people in the middle of America or in the middle of China. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty
But
cool.
we,
That's
uh,
epic, man.
but we really thought like because as you know, like all the AR technology, especially when we launched, was very gimmicky. So no one really thought it would work because people saw it like, oh, who wants to turn on the camera? Like no one wants to turn on the camera.
Mm,
And the 3D models looked kind of weird, not great quality at the beginning. Now it looks great, and it became an expected behavior, which is cool.
true. On the expected behavior thing, only a couple hours ago, I read a report. I'll send it through to you if I haven't already, by Vogue
Hmm.
Business and Snap AR, that white paper. And
Hmm.
one of the questions they asked, it was mainly aimed at like high end fashion, like luxury brands, and they would ask consumers. I think they polled over 1,000 consumers, and they were like, "Well, how many of you want AR as part of your shopping experience?" And a few years ago, maybe it wouldn't have been that many. Now it was I think 3/4 of people said it's very important that they have this AR experience, especially for luxury. And so
Hmm.
the other crazy stat from this is they're like, well, AR size within the retail market in about 2 years ago in 2021 was valued at 2 billion, and this allied market research group reckon by 2031 it'll be 61.3 billion. They reckon
Insane.
so a 41% annual growth rate, compounding year on year, which is a great space to be in for you, right?
Yeah, we're very happy about these numbers.
Um, what was like in the beginning? What were some of the harder challenges that you had to solve? Because no one had this. It didn't exist. You made a fake marketing video, and then you're like, okay, people are interested. Now we're gonna make this thing. Where do you start? And what were some of the challenges you had to overcome?
Man, the hardest challenge was to create the training data to feed our algorithms, which means basically to have virtual try-on technology for footwear, you need pictures of feet. Basically, you're teaching a camera what a foot looks like. Uh, and for the face, you can go online on lots of websites and you can get a training data of, millions of pictures of faces. That's easy. Now for feet, nothing was around. So we had to get a big data set of foot pictures. So everybody in my family thinks I have a foot fetish, because we asked around all of our friends, families, friends of friends, can you send me 50 pictures of your feet, please? The weirdest moment in my life. Um, I think we got to almost 100,000 pictures of feet,
Wow, just
which
from
is a
family and
big,
friends.
and extended families.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. This was definitely the most challenging because it's also a very weird ask.
I did the
to,
same thing, man. And
but
in the beginning, when we were starting, we were like, "Well, we need, there is no data set, so you gotta make it." And so, I was
exactly.
messaging my primary school teachers who added me on Facebook as a friend. I was like, hey, this is going to sound weird as fuck, but I need this. And literally every single Facebook friend I messaged with that message. So yeah, we had the same, but we didn't get 100,000. I didn't think to ask for like 50 photos each. That's crazy.
I mean, we asked for 150 to each, and
Wow.
then, well, depends on the degree of friendship, how many you get. And I still have like some like random like people I don't even remember about that I asked. We were like, yeah, did the pictures help? Like, yeah, sure it did. Now, thanks to you, people can actually train and try virtually some Stan Smith.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy you went through the same. I'm happy you went through the same challenge because it's kind of a unique experience to ask for these things.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm sure there's other people doing it for other reasons, but yeah, for the reasons we did it, very, very unique experience. Yeah. I realize we've jumped into AR. Most people should know what AR is now, but the point of the StrutFit show is really to break down these silos. And you and I will talk about models, and model means something else to us versus someone else in retail who's in like marketing. And we'll talk about AR where someone in manufacturing may not know where AR is. So for those unfamiliar, how would you describe AR and VR?
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question because I always I always want to rectify people when they get the two confused. So virtual reality is VR and AR is augmented reality. VR is a fully virtual world where everything is virtual. So the best example is you put on a VR headset and everything you see, you're transported into another dimension where you see the Mars planet, everything is virtual. AR is augmented reality. So you still see your reality, you see your surrounding, and you add a digital layer on top. So anything that allows you to see the world around you overlaid with digital content is AR. So this is what we do because we add a virtual sneaker onto the user's foot. So you still see your surrounding and you see a digital sneaker on your foot. And now I think, with Apple releasing the Vision Pro, I think they call it spatial computing now because it's using your space. But in the end, it's AR. That's the same.
Interesting that Apple went that direction when everyone was going VR, metaverse, and then Apple's like, actually, we think this is the way.
I think they did it because AR was a bit still of a weird concept for some people, and had a bad rep. I'm sure a lot of people had a bad AR augmented reality experience, and they thought it doesn't look that great. So they probably thought, okay, we want to distance ourselves from AR and VR because people don't get it. So the consumer. So they try to coin spatial computing. Let's see if that sticks. I haven't seen people use the term extensively so far, but they haven't released the headset yet. Really.
Cool. Okay, so you got all these photos of feet. You got 100,000 photos of feet from your family and friends. So that's half the problem. You got to detect the foot. Cool. Now you can detect the foot. You probably have to label that data so you can see which sort of pose it's in.
Exactly.
The other half of the problem, or the other third of the problem, I'll say, I mean, maybe there's more parts of the problem, but you got to now get the shoe and put it on the foot. How do you get, initially, how did you get the shoe? And now with some cool generative AI, which is probably happening, is that something you're going to be using, maybe already are using? But yeah, initially, how did you sort of tackle this asset creation problems? Because when we looked at this, we were like, okay, yeah, we can check the foot, but some brands have thousands of SKUs and some have a couple hundred, but you're not going to sit there and sort of hand model them all if they don't already have them. So how do you tackle this problem?
Yeah, that's right on point. Like that's the second big problem we had, because then we spoke to all these big brands and they were like, okay, we want to work with you. How do we do it? And the first question we asked, like, do you have 3D models? And then I no. Okay. So we had to figure it out. Well, some of our clients were great for that part because they allowed us to explore what was the best avenue to create 3D models. Creating a 3D model 4 years ago cost a lot of money. It was, some people were charging 4,000 for one
Wow.
3D model. So when we saw these numbers, we were a bit like, oh my God, but how is that scalable? No brand's going to be wanting to put that much money in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we tested loads of different 3D 3D scanning companies, 3D modeling companies, and now we identified a top 5 of companies that we work with who have great hardware, and there's different ways to create a 3D model. Either a brand can use existing CAD models. So CAD model, for people who don't know what a CAD model is, it's basically the design files that the design team at Timberland would have to send to the factory to create the shoe. And then you can create a 3D model from that. Or our preferred option is 3D scanning. 3D scanning means basically you put a shoe inside a box with loads of cameras and you take 200 pictures at the same moment. And that allows you to create a highly photorealistic 3D model. Because I do think, if we're doing AR, you need to show, the best quality you can. If the idea is to give the illusion of wearing it, well, it needs to be as close to reality as possible. Mm-hmm. That was definitely the big challenge, and now we're very happy that some very large footwear manufacturers invested in 3D scanning hardware. So they systematically create 3D models for each shoe they release. And I think it's a pattern that we see. More and more brands are doing this now. And, there's some companies like Co-Vision Lab. They make a promise of creating 3D models, which will allow you to create your 2D imagery. So basically their mission is to replace 2D photography with 3D. So once you create the 3D model, you're also able to export pictures for your product page pictures.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you can also create commercials with virtual backgrounds. So let's say you want to have this particular shoe on a basketball court, and this basketball court can be created with a 3D software like Unreal. The shoe is a 3D model, and you can dynamically change it based on your market all around the world. So everything can become virtual just from one 3D model. Yeah. There's some amazing videos. You can check what they have out. It's insane.
Yeah. So are we talking they'll have some basketball player running, dunking, and then they're like, cool, we can change the shoes that they're wearing and localize that video to that specific market?
Yeah. So this is something we're working on. So because our virtual try-on for footwear works for real time. There's no reason it cannot work for renders. And you can apply any shoe on any foot.
Dude, that's it. Like the amount of time and money and really personalization. I was visiting some footwear companies in the States, and they're talking about, and some articles were released on this, so it's not top secret, but creating footwear for like pretty local markets. So creating footwear which is specific to, say, LA as opposed to America in general, or specifically for New York. And there's small markets with respect to the US, but actually they actually in their own right are like pretty large markets, and they're quite different. Like New York's pretty different to Portland, and you're gonna want shoes which people can relate to, which perhaps the athletes in the area are also wearing. And so I guess to be able to create content to go along with that sort of hyper local manufacturing, that it just sounds like a dream come true for them.
Yeah, I have the 3D printing sector, which is really interesting in the sneaker world. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with a company called Zelefel. Well, their vision is to become the Spotify of footwear, where they basically have 3D printing warehouses where you can upload your design and your design will be printed out. So there's no dodgy labor involved. It's just made by machines, and it could be like very hyper local creations. Yeah,
Cool.
it's a
That
interesting
I mean,
company.
it would be interesting to even just model your own shoe, and you're like, actually, I want this, because the difference between them
Yeah,
printing yours versus some other shoe would be probably it's the same, right? So let me upload my
yeah,
own
yeah,
shoe.
exactly. Yeah, and you can wear it in AR before buying it. Nice plug.
That's funny. Um, what are the sort of so one of the limitations I saw a couple years ago again with the AR was you had to download an application. And do you have to do that with Viking, or can I just use it on any phone, on any browser?
Yeah, one of our mission as a company is that our virtual try-on technology works for every platform. We started originally by just having an iOS SDK, and then we thought, okay, well, not everybody has a huge retail app like Adidas. Most of the sales are happening on websites for most of them, which led us to creating a solution that works for websites. We also created one for WeChat mini programs, so our technology can also be used anywhere in China. And recently, we just released a Magic Mirror, which is basically an AR mirror for stores, where users can select the shoe they want to wear virtually, and they can see themselves on a connected screen, and they can see if the shoe fits with the whole outfit. So this will be released in stores in September.
Epic. I think I saw a demo of that with on LinkedIn. Like
Exactly,
a
yeah. They were our
yeah,
first client for that. Yeah,
that looked cool.
that was for a sneaker launch. Basically, they used it for an event in Germany where it was a shoe that hasn't. It was for like the release of a new sneaker, so you couldn't actually buy it yet. So people
Oh,
could wear it in augmented reality before
yeah,
the official release on their website. That was great
epic.
because that was a great use case. But
Yeah.
what we're going to do in September is to make the store experience more digital, so that users can uh, have the same digital experience they have on their app on the website for the virtual try-on part, and they can
Mm,
have exactly the same in stores. So the idea is to increase the speed of sale in store, because no one likes to hang out in stores waiting for a salesperson to get your size. So it's nice to have a pre-selection, and then you're like, okay, I like these ones, bring them to
mm,
the counter, I'm going to try them on now.
mm. Yeah, for sure. It's and so the amount of time we don't do in-store stuff yet, but it's something we'll experiment with soon, and it's really just about like your most precious resource as a retailer in store is your staff time. Like if they're helping someone,
Exactly.
that's time that they can't spell helping with someone else. So if you can halve the time they spend with someone, and not half the time they spend with someone, but half the time they spend doing useless shit like going back to the stock and being like, oh, let me check if this is in stock and so on. If you can get rid of that time and allow them to actually help the customer with that time instead, then sort of everybody wins, and the customer doesn't want to be there any longer than they sort of have to either, especially if it's dead waiting time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. What sort of feedback have you received from users on the app? We had one of our retailers mention they were like, oh, there was some feedback on Reddit, and so I just googled Reddit StrutFit and the retailer's name, and they were like all really good comments, and it's just so cool. Back to your earlier comment, being like, you come up with this idea in a garage, and then you make it, and then there's people unprompted on Reddit talking about how good the application is. So yeah, do people get in touch with you? How does?
So I never checked Reddit, but I'm going to do it right after this.
Do it.
And so, I mean, as you know, we work in a pretty novel industry, and once you are in it, you kind of forget the coolness of it sometimes. And then each time we go to conferences and we see people who never tried it, who tried for the first time, there's always this wow effect. And people are like, oh my God, this is insane, this is magic. And honestly, each time you see this reaction, it really comforts us into the idea that, yeah, this is actually a feature that people want to interact with. So the feedback we have is mainly live feedback in conferences and events. So when we did the Magic Mirror for the On Running event, that was the feedback was insane, because this was something that had never been done before, and people lost their minds. They were like, "Oh my God!" And I can change the shoes I'm wearing. Yeah, it was great.
And people doing backflips as well. I think I saw.
Funny you mentioned it. I was about to bring it up, and I thought, no, it's too weird. Yeah, someone did a backflip in front of the mirror, and the tracking still worked, so that was good.
They're like, "How good is your tracking?" You're like, "Well, you can do a backflip and it'll still work."
And I literally did it.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
That was insane.
Yeah, AR in store is an interesting concept. I was at, and I'll send this through to him to make sure this is fine to say, but I was at Cartier's Innovation Lab in New York, and they have this really compelling, this is public because they shared it on LinkedIn, that's how I first saw it, this like really compelling AR, and it's like a physical booth, so really it's like when you're in store you would use it, and you put your hand under, you put a little black band on, and you put your hand under this camera, and then on the screen in real time, like almost no delay, you can see your hand. In fact, maybe I'll add the video when I do the clip of my hand under this thing, and then you can switch between different rings, and the lighting's just like spot on, and I'm like, damn, it really does look like I'm wearing this thing, and it's great for a store which doesn't carry like all the stock, for example, with or for a shoe which hasn't been released yet. So I was like, oh wow, like I didn't realize you would need AR in store, because I'm like, oh, you can just try on the product. But actually, if you've got firstly not a massive sort of footprint of your store, then you're not going to have all the stock anyway. So being able to just pull in the sort of like, it's endless aisle, but it's endless aisle with try on in store, which is like such an interesting futuristic experience.
Yeah, I mean that's we're also working on it, because we're launching a virtual try-on for watches and bracelets, and that's a very good point. That some of these stores, they don't have all the stock, and they don't want anyone to try on a watch that costs $500K. Obviously, you have some very expensive products which are not safe to expose freely. So the virtual try-on, like trying on them in AR, is actually excellent for the stores. And it's also a great way to customize products in real time. So it's the same for footwear, it's the same for watches. Loads of these companies offer, to offer the customer to personalize and to customize the product with a different bracelet if it's a watch, a different sole color, and you can directly see your creation inside the store and then order it and get it delivered to your house. So I think that's the vision of like most of these big footwear manufacturers and also watchmakers, is to make the physical store experience a more digital one where the customer is more independent and it's more a way to showcase the brand universe, the brand values, and then the purchase can happen online anyway.
Yeah. Well, what an interesting future we're building, I guess. I'm like, when you're talking about, you forget that when you're working in a cool field, sometimes you just forget. You just forget that, you're like, oh yeah, that's my job, and it's also your company and you're passionate about it, but something, day to day, something that's easy to forget. And then, for example, my sister just used StrutFit for the first time like a couple days ago, and on a retailer which is based out of Spain, Picolinos, who've just signed them, they're epic. And she's like, oh, it took her less than a minute. And she's like, what? This changes everything. Like, I was put off by the A4 paper before, but I just tried it and this is epic. And why isn't everyone using this? This is going to revolutionize online shopping. And I'm like, you're telling me. Like, it's a matter of time we're getting more and more people. Yeah.
Exactly. And honestly, it's always good to test with the people who are not in the industry. Because in the end, all the clients that StrutFit has, in the end, the feature is a success if people use it. The customers, the end customer actually likes it. And, that's the real customer feedback.
100%.
If people want to use it and they're happy about the experience, it's the same for sizing, and it's the same for virtual try-on.
Yeah.
People actually
100%.
want to use these features because they bringing a solution. Yeah,
exactly. And I actually saw on that same report, which I mentioned earlier, the Vogue Business and Snap AR white paper, I think Megan McDowell is her name. She was saying, well, brands are now starting to track metrics which they previously wouldn't track things like engagement. Is someone just using the tool? Not just like, does it increase my revenue or decrease returns, which unless you're unless you're like a large retailer, it's hard to track. Like, if you increase sales by 2%, unless you're doing an A/B test on 2 million customers, like, you're just not going to be able to statistically prove that. And if you don't run an A/B test, you're not going to notice a 2% uptick in sales, because it could just be it could be noise, like, you don't know. But the hard, you're like, hey, 2 million people a month are using this. Probably we're adding some value here. And hey, look at this feedback. People like it. We're probably adding some value here. And something we're not tracking yet, but should do soon, is like, hey, if someone uses it, how likely are they to come back to your brand and shop again? Like, how are we increasing sort of brand loyalty through this experience? And these are things which previously I think companies weren't tracking as much because they didn't have experiences like your experience and our experience. But now that these exist, It's like, well, these are legitimate metrics that you should care about as a business.
Exactly. And, I'm sure it was the same at the beginning of websites, where some physical brands, that was like the first people who were like, okay, maybe we should sell online. And some people were like, no, that makes no sense. People like to go to the stores. It's the same with AR or any foot sizing technology at StrutFit. It's the same, where people are actually, I think when you have a new customer and people are using it, it's definitely creating FOMO for all these other brands, because if people are using it on one platform, well, they will expect it on another.
Yeah, for sure. It's a matter of time. Like, I remember PayWave, for example. It's like, initially people like, PayWave, I can just use them. Or even before PayWave, credit cards. I was alive probably long after credit cards became a thing, or before I was spending money. But probably when they came out, people were like, what? I can just use cash. And then when PayWave came out, it's like, well, I can just, and it's just that little bit of convenience.
Yeah.
and the customer begins to expect it. And it's like, well, now as a retailer, you either keep up and have the most cutting edge technology, which helps your customer, or you kind of just look like an old brand, which isn't sort of keeping up, right?
Exactly. I think we're going to see the same with, spatial computing, where, the people in 10 years who will not have a digital AR store with all the different technology we talked about will be seen as, okay, well, they didn't manage to keep up, and we saw it with loads of companies, even outside our sector. I mean, Nokia used to be the leading phone, and they kind of missed the train to be the iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I've seen some of those internal comms where they're like, they saw it coming and they're like, nah, people want this thing. People want the keyboard on top. And it's like, you don't know.
Yeah, right.
You as a company don't, like, sometimes you know, but most often the only person who knows what the customer wants is the customer, and you just have to, it's this sort of feedback loop of like, hey, we think this thing's going to work, or you market test it, and then you get faced with reality and you're like, okay, either I'm going to discard my previous opinion and go with now what reality is, and, sunk cost fallacy be damned, I'm just going to change and adapt.
Exactly.
Or you can be like, the customer doesn't know. People will still want to come to Blockbuster and get DVDs.
And R.I.P. Blockbuster.
R.I.P. Blockbuster.
No, but it's a weird thing, because first you need a really cool customer that takes the risk, because of course if you want to innovate, you need to take a risk at the beginning. So someone needs to. In our case, it was Adidas, who was the first to say, okay, yes, let's test it. And then once they tested it, so that people used it. And, it's the same. I don't know what your sales strategy is, but I think it's probably similar, where it's way better to convince big footwear manufacturers first. And then if they're doing it, then all the people selling that brand will have to do it if they want to stay competitive. I lost my train of thought, but there was something interesting there.
Yeah, it's for sure interesting. And we had a similar thing where Deckers was one of our early adopters. They have Hoka 1-1 and UGG and Teva. And they were using, I think, TrueFit in the States, and Europe were like, okay, we need a solution. But instead of just going with what the sort of predecessor solution was, they're like, let's have a look at what's in the market and let's see what's best here. And they chose StrutFit, and now they're one of the I guess
nice one.
Their market share is crazy. They're growing like crazy, and I'd like to say we help with that, probably just a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely did. Yeah. I mean, people bought more because of that.
Sure, awesome, exactly. And I guess, what are your stats that you've seen? Sure, like engagement's good. You see 23 million people, that's crazy. That's more than Australia as a country, by the way. Which that's pretty cool.
How is it compared to New Zealand?
Well, it's 5 times New Zealand, I think. Yeah, New Zealand's got about 5 million people. We just surpassed. We probably have more scans than there are people in our city, Auckland, and so it's coming along. That is a pretty cool stat too. But yeah, what sort of like the metrics that you talk to your retailers, and I guess other retailers listening would be like, okay, this is cool. How does it impact my sort of bottom line? What sort of metrics have you seen?
So our main metric is conversion rate. So if a customer is using the virtual try-on experience from the product page, that we see an average of twice more likely to purchase the item, and tripling in add to basket rates. So of course, these stats are always very impressive to customers. So we always tell them, test it, test it for 3 months and do A/B test. And if you're not happy, we won't work again. It's okay. But based on our experience, we always saw that type of increase in conversion rates. And that's the main metric, really. And for our customers, and then for as a global vision is the number of times that people use it. So our goal is that people systematically use the virtual try-on when they go on a product page, and that it becomes the main shopping behavior. So some companies like Poison in China, which is the equivalent of StockX, they created, which is a huge company that no one heard of so far, but now they're implementing, now they're starting to expand to the US, etc. And they created a whole camera feed from which you can try on the different sneakers. So kind of like a Snapchat type of experience that you can toggle from one shoe to the other. So the product page became a whole camera experience. So I think the main KPI is conversion rates, engagement time. So how much time people spend inside the VTO experience.
True. Yeah, I mean, the more time they spend on the website and engaging with this virtual try-on experience, I mean, the more likely they are to stick around and purchase, right?
Exactly. And you can always argue if they spent more time on it, maybe they already made their decision. So you don't know that.
Yeah, but you do the A/B tests, right? So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. All right, I'm a retailer. I'm listening to the StrutFit Show because we get. They're probably watching a video online. To be fair, those get a lot of views. But they're like, I'm convinced. It sounds like AR is where we need to be. We want to be like Adidas or Adidas, and we don't have footwear models, but we sell maybe 100 different SKUs a year. I think is a reasonable amount, even for like a big brand. And they're like, cool, we want to sign up. How quickly? Now, say everything is ready on their end, which is never the case with any large company ever. But say they're like, we want to go. How quickly can you get it up and running? Conceivably, how fast could you get up someone who doesn't have any 3D models? How fast could you get them up and running?
So realistically, 3 weeks to 1 month, everything's possible. So if, let's say tomorrow we have an incoming request, we just need the shoes, ship us the shoes, we scan them, we create highly photorealistic 3D models. The integration for a website will take 3 days top. For an SDK inside a native app, you need to count a week or two. And the main thing is to design a nice button for virtual try-on that people can click on from the product page. So it's pretty quickly. The first integrations we had at the beginning was taking a long time, but now we know exactly what to do and we know exactly the process. So it's very straightforward.
Epic. And I mean, 1 month is faster than most brands will be able to make decisions internally. So,
exactly.
That's epic.
And we just created a platform, which is called the Vyking dashboard, which allows customers to directly upload their 3D models. And we developed an AI, which turns these 3D models into virtual try-on ready assets. So this is what we market ourselves as, because we helped Adidas scale virtual try-on across platforms. So you are able to do this in a scalable way from our platform.
Wow. And you guys are using AI everywhere. I love how a couple of years ago people would say, oh, we use AI, and it's like, no, you're not. There's some like rule-based engine here. But the proliferation of AI is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, our business is based on AI. So, and each time, computer vision, which is the core of our business, which is, teaching a camera to see as a human, that's AI. And it's true that each time we speak to some investors who don't really know what AI is, they think everybody's doing AI, but it's like, and when we say that, another company doing AI, Like, yeah, but we're actually doing it.
Yeah, we actually do it. Like back when we started, and same as when you started, I think there was like a handful of companies in the world doing it. Like we just timed it really well because it was like us, Tesla, Facebook, maybe Snapchat. Like there weren't that many people at it, and so yeah, timing I guess is kind of just luck, but it's good we were onto it.
Yeah, definitely.
Epic. Um, oh, you mentioned the button. This is purely for our own learning. How much did you sort of play around with the button, the AR try-on button on the PDP? Um, and how much of a difference did it make when you sort of tweak the button? Yeah.
So that really depends on the customer. So most of our customers today are customizing according to their brand guidelines. Our recommendation is not so much about the design of the button. It's more about launching directly the virtual try-on experience with one click. So if you click on the virtual try-on button, it's to directly open the camera. But the content of the actual button, that's really up to the customer. Everything is customizable. We of course have like default buttons that we think work really well. It really, I think the main goal is to get the wording right. So because some people don't know what virtual try-on means. So sometimes it's better to spell it out. Try them on virtually with your camera, but that's too long, so you need to shorten that. But I think it's all about the wording and the right icons. So from a product catalog view, so when you see all the different sneakers in a specific category, I think the main thing is to have an icon that shows that this product has virtual try-on enabled. And I'm sure, you have the same for StrutFit. I guess you have sizing possible to get your foot size accurately. And so we have the icon in the product catalog. And then when you go to the product page, one button to launch the VTO in one click.
Awesome.
That was a long explanation, but yeah, nice buttons work in short.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like for us, we have a similar thing where for some retailers, it just says, what's my size? And so there's like a framework called jobs to be done. And it's like, well, what we're really helping people with is when they have a query about their size, before we would compete with like the size chart. So there would be the StrutFit button, what's my size? And then somewhere else on the page, there's a size chart. And it was pretty much 50-50 splitting the user's attention. And we're like, wait a minute, we're confusing them with two CT call to actions. Like just give them one option. And so now with a bunch of our retailers, you just click on what's my size or what's my size in the style. And the very first screen on StrutFit, we've only just released this, we'll be like, hey, here's a what's the wording we've used for it? But effectively, here's this like personalized scanning method, which you can do. And we show you what it looks like at the end of it. So not only do you get your size, but you get to see how the shoe fits, like how is it in width, how is it in length. You can try on the size up and the size down and see how they fit. Or we can just give you a size chart. And that's an option at the bottom as well. And some people are just like, hey, I just want the size chart. But giving them just one clear call to action on the PDP and then being like, cool, well, let's guide you through this journey seems to be working. And I think ultimately our competition is not, and in fact, probably your competition as well, is not other people providing this experience. It's not other people being like, hey, we'll let you scan your feet. But really it's people just like buying a bunch of different shoes. In our case, buying like, hey, I want to buy this Hoka shoe. Let me buy a size 9, a 10, and 11 because I don't know what size I am. Let me try them all on and then send them back. And for you guys, it might be, oh, I don't know which style I might like, so let me get 3 different styles. I'll just send 2 back, which I don't like because I don't know what they'll look like on my feet. That's the real competition is people just being like, hey, I just want to try on a bunch of different shoes. And so it needs to be as accurate as trying the shoes on, which you're getting with your photorealism and we're getting with our accuracy of scanning. And it needs to be more convenient. And I think first principles that you're like, okay, it probably is more convenient for a one-button try-on than unboxing all these shoes, trying them on, and then sending back them through the returns process. Like,
Exactly.
that's the enemy of us, and we need to unteach that consumer behavior by making it more convenient to not do that. And then the sustainability outcomes off the back of that, you're like, that helps the retailer, it helps the customer, it helps the environment. Like, everybody needs to get onto this.
Exactly. I mean, returns is a huge problem for all of the retailers. Everybody who's selling products online with a return policy, they all have a huge problems linked to returns. It's not only financial, of course, as you said, it's also, a CO2 footprint is terrible. So if everybody sends back and ships back 3 pairs per person, and you have 50 million customers, it's a never-ending story. So I think 80% of returns are due to sizing. I think so. You're addressing it, and I think 20% is from styling. So people are not happy with what the product looks like. So I think your solution and our solution, are very complementary in that effect.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the ultimate one day in the future is as you're virtually trying on the shoe, it sizes your foot. Right now, not technically possible.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Right now, not technically possible from the to scan someone's foot and get, because it's like half a shoe size is like 3.3 millimeters, and so to accurately size someone, you need to be within 3 millimeters of accuracy. And the same as you earlier, you said our goal is to let anyone on any phone use the solution, and we had the same thing. We were like, as soon as we go live, any retailer needs to be able to use it. So it can't just be the latest phone with the latest tech. It just has to be any phone. And so the way we did it was we were like, okay, what's something everyone has? Oh, piece of A4 paper. So we'll let you, or America, letter size paper. Put that down, take a photo with your foot on top of that, and we'll use that to size your foot. Man, that's everything I had, and we've covered quite a lot. I think if someone came into this without knowing what AR is, or knowing that you can even try on a shoe online, they'll now have a pretty comprehensive view of where the world's heading, what the brands are doing to sort of address consumer needs, and the world's going to look. I mean, you said 4 years ago it cost $4,000 to create a 3D model, and now it probably costs less than a tenth of that.
Yeah.
And so, like, where's...
And I'm pretty sure like some companies still charge that much to some not so clued up manufacturers. But now the costs are low.
All right, if you're listening and you're getting charged $4,000 a scan, then hit up Thibault and the Vyking
Exactly.
team. Sick, man. Are there any other sort of leaving comments you'd like to say about either Vyking or the AR space in general, or retail tech? Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I mean, the main message is that it's not hard to launch virtual try-on. It's actually very easy, and it's easy to do it in a scalable manner. So 3D model production is now easier than ever, and don't be late to the game. I guess that's my main message. And
Perfect.
get in touch with Vyking if you want to at least just explore and like learn more about virtual try-on.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, we'll hopefully we have a bunch of retailers reaching out to you.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Hey, thanks for being on the show, man. Now you're joined an esteemed company by people with from IKEA and Zappos and hopefully a bunch of more cool retailers. We've had quite an array of people from like manufacturing to from management to sales, marketing, and now we got AR tech. So really enjoying sort of bringing the cool stuff happening and the lots of different silos in this industry and sort of bringing it together.
Yeah, it's really impressive, man. That's a really cool show. Yeah, and I guess last message is like, yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the StrutFit Show on Spotify.
Awesome.
And any platforms you have.
Yeah, Apple. Follow us on Instagram. Like and subscribe. Awesome.
Yeah, hit the button right above.
Let's go. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The StrutFit Show. I've been your host, Nayyar. And if you enjoyed it, if you found some parts where you were like, this has added some value to my life, then please share it with a few other people that you think would also value this information or that snippet. And when they like it as much as you did, I'm sure they'll thank you. If you're interested in what we're doing at StrutFit, head to our website at www.strut.fit to learn more and get in touch with us. If you want to get in contact with me directly, you can reach me at ang@strut.fit. All right, that's all, folks. Till next time, take care.